All right, first and foremost, I want to give all praise to Yahweh Shem, Yahweh Shai, Barakatham. Give us a sincere greeting to the brothers and sisters scattered across the four corners, teaching this word with sincerity and charity. I'm Brother Phoenix with Prince of Power Israelites. Another short lesson. Controversial topic. A lot of people don't like to talk about this. A lot of people don't like to go into this. You don't see a lot of lessons on this, but it's dealing with uncleanness and the woman's uncleanness during her menstrual, or during her monthly cycle, or during her flower. Her being unclean, should she be able to come into the congregation? Should she be able to come around other brothers and sisters while she's unclean? Does she need to continue to stay set apart, as we see in the scriptures? And so when we ask ourselves this, we need to first ask ourselves, why does the Most High require us to be clean? What are the benefits for us being clean? Like, we have to start questioning why the Most High is telling us to do certain things. We start doing them, and then you have to get better understanding. You need to know why are you doing it? And that's why you come to Him as a babe, because children always going to ask why. Why I got to do it? Once you tell them to do something, they be like, well, why I got to do it like this? And so we're going to go into, and then we're going to first see why it's important for us to be clean. What was the reason for us to be clean? And then see if those things, if it's still necessary now for us to be clean in this new dispensation, under this new priesthood that we're under. So we'll first start out with Exodus. Chapter 19. And we're going to read verses 10 through 11. And then we're going to jump down to 14 and 15. Exodus 19 and verse 10. It says, and the Lord said unto Moses, go unto the people and sanctify them today and tomorrow, and let them wash their clothes. So we see in the sanctification, the consecration of the Israelites after we've come out of Egypt. The Most High is sanctifying us, consecrating us, making us holy. All right. And let them wash their clothes. Verse 11, and be ready against the third day. For the third day, the Lord will come down in the sight of all the people upon Mount Sinai. So before the Most High, before you come into the presence of the Most High, you must be consecrated. So everybody in Israel had to be consecrated before the Most High came down Mount Sinai to give His presence unto the people, to show His presence to the people. Everybody needs to be consecrated. Okay, now that's one of the reasons we kind of going into why you need to be clean, because when you come into the presence of the Lord, you need to be cleansed. This is why the Levitical priesthood, this is why the high priest Aaron, he had the extra set of garments. He had the washing bowl in the Holy of Holies so he could wash and then put on a fresh new garment, to put on that holy linen garment to do the works of the Most High, to offer up those sacrifices, especially that sacrifice on the Day of Atonement. Let's drop down to verse 14. And Moses went down from the mount unto the people and sanctified the people, and they washed their clothes. And he said unto the people, be ready against the third day, and come not at your wives. He said, be ready on the third day, because the third day the Most High said He's going to come down Mount Sinai, and He's going to show Himself unto Israel. Y'all been sanctified, y'all wash your clothes, but do not come into your wives. Do not go into your wives. Why is He saying don't go into your wives? Because going into your wife makes you unclean. It makes you unclean. The release of those fluids, you know what I'm saying, out of your private parts, you know what I'm saying, out of your genital, the release of those fluids or a discharge coming from that area is makes you unclean. And anybody who deals with you, anything that you done touch, or anybody that touches you, or you touch anybody, those people become unclean, and therefore they can't come into the presence of the Most High. So He told them, don't deal with your wives. Do not go into your wives, right? Because those things will make you unclean. You mess around and be killed in the presence of the Most High. Now let's go to Leviticus. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 15. And this is where this comes out at. Leviticus chapter 15. And we like the verses 1 through 19 are dealing with the man, are dealing with issues of the man. Like I say, a discharge, a bacterial infection, what I'm saying, gonorrhea. Some scholars think that that might have been gonorrhea, that discharge that a man may have, could cause him to be unclean. You know what I'm saying? So, also him sleeping with his wife and releasing those fluids defiles the bed, defiles the sheets. Everything needs to be washed and consecrated so that you can be clean. Now, why are you being clean? Why do you need to be clean? You know what I'm saying? We doing all these things to be clean, but for what reason? All right, now let's read 19. We're gonna read 19 through 24 just to go into what the woman was dealing with and with her issue. Verse 19, Leviticus chapter 15, verse 19. And if the woman have an issue, and her issue is in her flesh be blood, she shall be put apart 7 days, and whosoever toucheth her shall be unclean unto even. Now anybody that touches her shall be unclean unto even, right? And everything that she lieth upon in her separation shall be unclean. Everything also she sitteth upon shall be unclean. And whosoever toucheth her bed shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water and be unclean unto the even. And whosoever toucheth anything that she sit upon shall wash his clothes, bathe himself in the water, and be unclean unto even. And if he be on her bed or anything whereon she sitteth, when he toucheth it, he shall be unclean unto the even. All right. And if any man lie with her at all, and her flowers be upon him, and he shall be unclean 7 days, and all the bed whereon he layeth shall be unclean. Now, if he goes into her and that flower comes upon her, because sometimes men can go into their wives, and then you know what I'm saying, that cycle actually kicks on in the middle of that process. You know what I'm saying? And if that does happen, then this man is unclean. These are really just giving you ordinances, giving you laws concerning uncleanness, what to do to prevent you know what I'm saying, what to do to make yourself back clean if you do become unclean, because uncleanness is going to happen. Is it a sin to be unclean? It's not a sin to be unclean. It's not a sin to be unclean. All right. To be unclean is going to happen because you're going to go into your wife. You're going to go into her, and that's going to make you unclean. You're going to be around dead bodies. Somebody may die around you, and you become unclean. But this is a process that happens before you go and try to take part in any of the ceremonies. See, you got 3 types of unclean. You have a spiritual unclean, a moral unclean, and a ceremonial unclean. And this is what we're dealing with here. This uncleanness, this personal uncleanness will keep you away from ceremonial activities where you can't go and take part in the Passover like we see in Numbers. Let's go there real quick. Well, Shalakia. Well, let's go there real quick. But hold the Leviticus 24. I'm at the Leviticus 15 because we're gonna come right back to that. But let's go to Numbers. Shalakia, Numbers 9 and 6. And we're gonna read to verse 10. Numbers 9 and verse 6. All right. And there were certain men who were defiled by the dead body of a man, that they could not keep the Passover on that day. And they came before Moses and before Aaron on that day. Now, if you looked at it in another translation, it'll say that these men became ceremonially unclean, that they couldn't keep Passover on that day. And they came before Moses and before Aaron on that day, and those men said unto him, we are defiled by a dead body of a man. Wherefore are we kept back, that we may not offer an offering of the Lord in his appointed season among the children of Israel? He's saying, can't be like, well, dang, we can't keep the Passover and make an offering because we're unclean. And this is what the uncleanness is about. It's about making offerings. All right, it's about making certain sacrifices, especially in their season, but also, your daily sacrifices, and any atonements, peace offerings, things of that matter. You can't go in there and deal with that tabernacle. You can't go in the presence of the Most High if you're unclean. So you'll have to wait 7 days or wait 8 days. Or if that blood continued on you, there's certain laws, certain statutes and ordinances that govern that process to get you back clean in order for you to go into the ceremonial practices of the sacrifices. Let's continue on. Verse 8, and Moses said unto them, stand still, and I will hear what the Lord will command concerning you. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, speak unto the children of Israel, saying, if any man of you or of your posterity shall be unclean by reason of a dead body, or be in a journey afar off, yet he shall keep the Passover unto the Most High. The 14th day of the second month at even they shall keep it, and shall eat unleavened bread. So you see an ordinance apply here that anybody that was unclean, because these things are going to happen. All right, so it wasn't his fault. So you may be around kicking a bobo with somebody have a heart attack in front of you and die in your house. Not everybody in the house is unclean the day before Passover, or unclean that morning of Passover. So what happens? You have an ordinance that comes in that says, okay, well, you can do it on the second month. You know what I'm saying? You can do it on the next month on the 14th day. And so, again, we just going through this to show what that uncleanness and cleanness was dealing with. All right. And is it what we're trying to establish why we need to be unclean? And if how do we need to be? Is it necessary now under the dispensation that we have now? Is clean? Is ceremonial cleanness necessary? Now we know spiritually cleanness is necessary, and morally. You know what I'm saying? Moral cleanliness is necessary, but is ceremonial cleanliness necessary? And this is what Leviticus 15 goes into, and we'll see that if we jump back to that Leviticus 15, and we'll drop down to verse 31. Leviticus chapter 15, verse 31. Thus shall ye separate the children of Israel from their uncleanness, that they die not in their uncleanness when they defile my tabernacle that is among them. All right, so you'll mess around and die in your uncleanliness when you defile the tabernacle of the Most High by putting unclean sacrifices through your uncleanliness. Like you touching something and making it unclean, then you making the priest unclean, then you gonna mess around and get the priest killed. You know what I'm saying? So you gotta be mindful of these things if you have that tabernacle. But do we have the tabernacle today? Are we sacrificing today? Is your cleanliness, what is the benefit of your cleanliness today? Is the Most High dealing with us? Is he in our presence? We got to be mindful of these things. Let's continue on. This is the law, verse 32. This is the law of him that have an issue, and of him whose seed goeth from him, and is defiled therewith, and of her that is sick of her flowers, or of him that have an issue of a man, and of a woman of him that lieth with her that is unclean. This is the law for this. All right, this is the law to get yourself back clean so that you can go sacrifice, so that you can make atonement for your sins. This is the law for that. Let's look at Leviticus chapter 22. Leviticus chapter 22 in verse 5. It says, or whosoever toucheth any creeping thing, whereby he may be made unclean, or a man of whom he may take uncleanness, whatsoever uncleanness he have, the soul which have touched any such shall be unclean unto even, and shall not eat of the holy things. Now Leviticus chapter 22 goes into the purity, goes into the cleanliness of the priests. So the priest, if they're touching anything that creepeth, any uncreepeth, unclean, creepeth thing, or if they touching, or if they dealing with somebody who's unclean that touches them in their uncleanness, then they become unclean and they can't eat that holy thing. What is that holy thing? That sacrifice. Because this is how the priest actually ate. This was their food. This was their food. So the verse 6, the soul that have touched any such shall be unclean unto even, and shall not eat the holy things, unless he wash his flesh with water. And when the sun is down, he shall be clean, and shall afterward eat of the holy things, because it is his food. That which dieth of itself, or is torn of a beast, he shall not eat, to defile himself with it. I am the Lord. So we just wanted that 7. When that sun go down, he shall be clean, and shall afterward eat of the holy things, because it is his food. This is the food of the priest. And this is this holy thing, but he cannot eat this holy thing. As a priest, he cannot eat this holy thing if he's unclean or have been touched by someone who's unclean. That eventually makes him unclean, and that person cannot go and sacrifice and make any offering to consecrate himself, or because he's unclean. And so this is what this is a ceremonial uncleanness. And so again, now that we have an understanding, we ask ourselves, is it necessary now, when we have no tabernacle and when we're under a new priesthood? Let's look at Hebrews chapter 7 and verse 12. And it says, for the priesthood being changed, there is made a necessity a change also of the law. So certain things, the priesthood having been changed, us not being under that Levitical priesthood and being now under the priesthood of Melchizedek, we don't have to make these offerings. We had a perfect lamb that was offered for us in the Hamashiach Yahushua. We don't have to do these sacrifices continually. So I ask you again, is it necessary for us to be clean or unclean ceremonially? You know what I'm saying? You can go into the Ephesians 5:5 about those people being unclean, that will not inherit into the kingdom. Could you try again? That will not inherit the kingdom, Shalakia. And you can, you know what I'm saying, we can deal with the woman with the blood of had the issue of blood that touched Yahushua's garment. You had Joseph allegedly defiling himself, pulling Yahushua off of the cross. So we have to ask ourselves, is it necessary? Is it necessary now when you have no tabernacle? Like, why are you clean now? You're clean for what? What are you clean? Why are you clean? And we know that uncleanness will happen. And this is also why fence laws and certain traditions were made through the Pharisees with the washing of hands and pots and cups, because they wanted to be clean. All of this washing, this is how this actually started. This is how it ended up coming to pass, where the Pharisees and said, like, listen, they like, man, you can't just come outside and just come in here and just start eating. You need to wash your hands. You may be unclean. And we just got to think about, man, you know, brothers may go into their wives right before Sabbath, and then, like, you unclean, then go there, how about you, and then dapping everybody up, man. You done did a unity camp, you done dapped 100 brothers up, all of us unclean. But we unclean for 7 days, or we unclean to evening. To what avail, though? What does it profit us to be clean if you have no tabernacle, if you don't have any, if you're not doing any offerings? And when I'm saying clean, I'm meaning ceremonially clean. Why are you ceremonially clean? We're worried about being ceremonially clean, and we're not having no ceremony. We're not partaking in the ceremonies. So I hope this was edifying to the body. With that, I'm going to say shalom.